Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and we mentioned this a bit earlier in the program, but I want to bring it back. I want to get Ted Dabrowski to comment on this, even though it's a bit more personal and cultural than strictly policy, but that's okay. He's a three-dimensional human being. He can handle it. The second annual Pan American Congress took place in Mexico City over the weekend. I don't know if you were able to attend because I know so many of you were at the Socialism 2025 conference in Chicago, and it's a lot of travel, I understand. But the stars were out in Mexico City. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and our very own socialist Spice Girl, Delia Ramirez. Well, Sean Casten is too, but Delia Ramirez, she doesn't get a lot of attention. Maybe she deserves some more. This is how she opened her remarks at this momentous summit.
Quiero terminar diciendo unas palabras en español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
A very popular statement at the conference. The statement, the translation, I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. That's a member of Congress saying that. I guess we're inured to it because that's sort of the same thing you would hear from Ilhan Omar, from Omar Fatah, the endorsed candidate for mayor of Minneapolis, perhaps soon to be renamed Mogadishu, Minnesota. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. Is that what this country's about? Is that antithetical to the melting pot concept? Do we want to abandon the melting pot concept and go to the identitarian, balkanized paradigm? Ted Dabrowski is the president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things policy related. Ted, thanks for joining. Illinois policy related. Thanks for the call. Thanks for joining us, Ted. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for starting with this. I actually saw this yesterday. Somebody shot me the video, and it runs so counter to what I lived. And my parents were both immigrants. My mom came from Ecuador when she was a young lady. My dad escaped communist Poland when he was about 22. And, they came and they created their life here in Chicago. And, this is around 1960, Illinois, Chicago, this is the beacon of opportunity for everybody. And they came here. And, and my parents talked about it a little bit. My dad's been gone for a long time, but, their obsession was assimilation. They knew for their kids, I got a brother and a sister, they knew that for their kids, being American, assimilating, learning the language, English was key. And just becoming great Americans was everything for their kids to be successful, to get jobs, to grow. And, my dad even, my mom, of course, and the kids, we could speak Spanish to my mom. But my dad said, no, you're not going to speak Spanish. And, as a family, we're going to speak in English. We're going to get great. And it's so important. And my parents, and my dad having escaped communism was just a fervent American. And, that's how you build a great America. It doesn't mean that, my parents, love their own countries and they left their own countries, which is where they had their families and their roots and their history. But they became great Americans.
Yeah, right. Right. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. Yeah, that's the ideologue. That's the party apparatchik. I don't think that's the position of most legal immigrants in particular. People that the people that actually took out here because that exactly what you described, exactly what your parents saw here. I don't think that's reflective, but it all sort of gets conflated because of the way that they demagogue these issues to suggest that, oh, if I'm critical of that, then I'm critical of somebody who is proud of their heritage. No, not at all. But the whole thing is we're proud of our individual heritages, but we are proud first and foremost to be Americans and what the idea of this country is. And that just seems to be something that is, I used to think was so basic, and now it is very much in controversy.
Yeah, we forget a lot of these people fled those countries, not because they don't love their own countries, but because, you take Ecuador, which is an amazing, beautiful country, and I love it, and so I don't critique it in this way, but it's been corrupt for a long time, and if you want to know what real poverty looks like, just travel a little bit just travel in Ecuador. You'll see what real poverty looks like, and you'll see what corruption looks like. Of course, we all know what Poland looked like, in the height of communism. So these are tough places, and so you come to America because of its constitution and the freedoms you get. And it's really sad when you see all these the illegal immigrants, flying the Mexican flag. This is America, and people are forgetting that.
Yeah, and I think there's a perception that that's a prevailing attitude because that's what the press corps focuses upon for the purposes of fomenting division and playing their own identitarian political game. But you get out of the streets with the professional paid-for agitators and the useful idiots, and you get into neighborhoods or communities, and it's just a very different attitude.
Well, yeah, just one more thing. I was talking to a big Hispanic pollster, and he was saying, look, you might see all those flags on TV. You're right, but a lot of people just don't like that. That flood of immigrants has made it much more difficult for Hispanic citizens, for example, to get jobs, or lowers their pay. It makes it more difficult. So it's it is a complex subject, but certainly I'm glad you covered it.
Speaking of difficult to get jobs, it seems like it's difficult to create jobs in Illinois. So it's difficult to get jobs that haven't been created. You did an analysis comparing growth in private sector jobs pre-COVID to just about present, comparing Illinois to the high job growth states. The implication being Illinois isn't one of them. And what did we find?
Well, we don't create jobs in Illinois, and part of that, of course, aligns with we're losing people, right? Our population is flat and falling. So, but for me, and kind of talks about this American ideal. The American ideal is that you find great jobs, you have a lot of opportunity, your wages rise, you take care of your family, and and the rest is history. You live your American dream. In a place like Illinois, right? We in the 7 years since Pritzker's been governor, we're almost at zero jobs. We've created 15,000 net new jobs in 7 years. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's dismal. And you compare that to Texas and Florida that are creating over a million jobs over the same time period.
Well, just
Carolinas and Georgia's 400,000.
Well, yeah, the North Carolina, since that's a slightly smaller population-wise than Illinois, but it's in the ballpark. So 15,500 net jobs over 7 years in Illinois. Over that same time period in North Carolina, including with a Dem governor for a time period, 476,900 jobs. I mean, it's just, it's like the whole. This is one of my favorite cover stories from the political class here. Whatever bad is happening, it's happening everywhere. Illinois is just facing it like everybody else. No.
It's not true.
All right. If you actually look at it, there's something very unique going on in Illinois, even when you compare it to, on again, off again, purple states like North Carolina.
We're talking job numbers, but what it means is just lack of opportunity for people. And that's, this is why we lose people. And this is why, companies are setting up in all these states, is because people are attracted to those states. They're incentivized to go there. Taxes are lower. There's, less regulation. There's more freedom. And so, we're losing that battle, which is really sad because, you're talking about average everyday people who just want to do better in Illinois, and they're either doing worse or they're leaving, and that that's putting us in a spiral that's ugly.
Well, speaking of that, the rumors are various about your potential political interests. You're going to Gandhi it and attempt to be the change you wish to see. At least you're contemplating that. Tell us about why you're thinking about running for governor.
Well, I've been working on this for 15 years, talking about Illinois' problems, trying to work on the solutions. We even put together a whole book on, here's the pension problem and here's a good way to fix it. And, I've watched our leadership in the Republican side, and, we haven't decided to take on the problems in a principled way. And, I always argue that, we pay the highest taxes because we let them do that to us. We have these crazy crime rates because we let them, we let the government do these things. I mean, we let them run over us, and there's no real opposition. And, if you look at, we talk about all the debts and the taxes. Look what our legislature just did this past month, right? They passed a law that increased Chicago pensions. It was unanimous, Democrats and Republicans. Everybody knows that Chicago's broke. Everybody knows that they have huge deficits. Everybody knows that it's shrinking. Everybody knows that these taxes have been going up. And yet our legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, just increased benefits, and Pritzker signed it. And so if we all know it's so bad, why does it happen? And so this is, I think, an opportunity to come in and lead. I think I know all these issues pretty well. I mean, I don't claim to know everything, but I know the issues well. My past experience was working in a country in Poland. I worked with Citibank in Poland, and I got to lead a bunch of teams to help make a country that had been destroyed by communism, by war. I got to work with a lot of teams, lead teams, to make that one of the best countries in the world right now in terms of growth and opportunity. And I think we just need that excitement, that leadership, and the principles. We got to stay principled. If just stay principled, and we can make the changes. Illinois should be a top 5 state in the country for growth, for opportunity, for wages, for learning, all those things. And we're the bottom 5 for everything. So we have to flip that around. And I think it takes a different mindset and a different leadership. And I'm happy to lend my name in there.
When you say that the Republicans haven't put in the fight, to the extent that it's even discernible they put in a fight, but they haven't done it in a principled way, what does that mean? In what way have they done it?
We know we have the highest property taxes, so we should do everything to oppose more taxes and do everything to support things that lower taxes. But then you have Republicans voting for things like Amendment 1 that helped enshrine the powers of the unions in the Constitution. How can anybody agree to something like that if they in theory are supposed to help everyday Illinois, afford Illinois? And we see it in the laws all the time. This pension thing that just happened. We don't vote in a principled way to show the everyday Illinois that we're with them. We're leaving people hanging. And I think everyday Illinois needs somebody to battle for them. Right now, the unions, the public sector unions, have Pritzker and the Democrats to battle for them day in and day out. We need to battle every single day for everyday Illinois who are just trying to make ends meet. And
so this means that I shouldn't make it a statement. It's a question. I mean, so is this sort of a Trumpian play in the sense that it is sort of a pox on both the houses here, meaning both parties? It's you're obviously affiliated with the Republican Party, out of necessity, but you're not that doesn't mean you're enthralled or unwilling to criticize the Republican Party as it actually operates. Well,
it's amazing, right? So Jim Edgar created the Edgar ramp and made a mess of pensions. Governor Thompson, he was the one that made COLAs compounded. Republicans have their hands in this because it's a tough place, and many Republicans think that you have to just go along to get along kind of thing. That needs to change too, but it's the whole culture. And what we've lost in Illinois is, and we love sports, we love competition, but we forget about it when it comes to states. We should be competing with other states for talent, for investment, for ideas. And we don't think that way, and we're getting our butts kicked right and left. I mean, I think I told this the other day. I was with a company And the owner of the company said, I no longer am planning to grow my business in Illinois. Every single dollar I'm investing goes to Georgia, Virginia. And I looked on the map, and all the dots were in other states, and nothing was in Illinois. And we have to change our mentality of how we help that business owner, that entrepreneur, do things here. And we don't think that way anymore. We have to think about winning. We have to. It's good, healthy competition is what makes us all better. And as a state, we need to think that way too.
Ted Dabrowski, President of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related, and prospective gubernatorial candidates. We're going to have to watch that one. Ted, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And Ted joins us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest-growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business